Hallo meine Freunde und herzlich willkommen bei Let's Play Outer Space hier auf dem SadPizzaDude Channel. Wir sind wohl einem Mord auf der Spur. Der kam ganz überraschend. Hier ist er nicht. Aber... Ach so, das ist gar nicht markiert oder was?
Bodybag dispenser empty. Please replace sack reel before disposing of any corpses.
Das Opfer hat schon mal nichts abbekommen. Was ist denn ein Magnum? Ich will ja gar nichts klauen. Aber ich meine, gut, ich klaue es jetzt schon, so ist es nicht. Aber ich will eigentlich nach Hinweisen suchen. Oh. Warte mal, wir können es ja jetzt erstmal Nebenauftrag. Hier sind wir. Hier ist die Leiche. Bei, wie heißt es hier? Cyberpunk war das easier mit dem Untersuchen. Hier haben wir ja nicht viel. Er ist tot. Hier ist das Blut. Dieser Wettbeleg dokumentiert eine sehr optimistische Wette für ein Team namens Morsel Questions. Er wurde von Left Field Tossball Blitzings ausgestellt. Tossball, das ist nicht dieser Ballsport, auf dem der Dude stand? Auftrag aktualisiert. Okay, es scheint noch nicht alles gewesen zu sein. Wurden mehrere zerlumpte Sätze Kleidung an Farbe welches Schnitt gestopft. Okay. Untersuche dieses komische Field. Ich würde sagen, das machen wir. Sofort. Wir haben viel zu tun hier, bevor wir... Erstmal müssen wir die Einkäufe erledigen jetzt. So, das war nämlich direkt hier. Hier ist ja eine Stimmung.
Whoa, by the stars, my poor heart. I just about pissed my jumpsuit. Most people don't. Besides, this place is enough to try anyone's nerves. Where should I begin? With the oversized mantisaurs? Or perhaps the rat spewing acid at our walls? The board was right. This place isn't fit for human habitation, and I was a fool for staying. Sanjar, of course. He had all these glorious ideas about how he'd run Monarch. Rest periods between every work shift. No shift more than 10 hours long. It all sounds wonderful, until you realize there's only a few centimeters of repurposed steel between you and the deadliest creatures in the galaxy.
Ja, eben.
I'm not even finished. Add that to the supply shortages, thanks to being cut off by the board, and I dare say we're no better off than the lowliest Spacer's Choice enclave. Only every day. But in case you haven't noticed, we don't exactly get ships on a regular basis, yours notwithstanding.
Komm mit.
And even if I did scrape together enough to buy passage out,
Mic off.
which would mean
Mic
we should
on,
all be
mic off.
eaten, shot, or dissolved into green goop, what then?
Mic on.
Keine Ahnung, ich habe gerade an mein Mikrofon gekommen, sorry. Jetzt habe ich nicht ganz aufgepasst, was er erzählt hat, wegen meinem Mikrofon.
Nothing. That's what. Because MSI is not in what you'd call good standing with the board. So even if I could get out of here, no one's gonna hire me. Was there something else? Or did you just want to mock me? That was a real popular meal 10, 20 years back, before the board tucked tail and ran. These days, everybody's had a belly full of salt tuna. They all want borscht. And the mushrooms, well, not many venture out of town, what with the monsters hereabouts. I can whip one up for you, but it'll cost. Here's a menu.
Sollen wir ihn einschüchtern?
Whoa, hold on, Okay. Leak contained. My stars. Look, Captain. This is the best I can do without putting myself out of business. I'm mighty glad you reckon so. This is gonna take about an hour in the oven. Nothing I can do to speed it. That's just how cooking works. There we are. Now, if you don't mind, I really need to take a leak.
Ja, sehr schön. War die Apotheke vorher im Weg? Ne. Dann machen wir wieder hier weiter. Ich muss ein bisschen die City an. Ich mag das Design. Es ist echt cool. Da haben sie sich echt cool ausgedacht. Das erinnert mich ein bisschen an Herzküchlein. Dafür müssen wir raus. Das machen wir erstmal nicht. Dann haben wir das schon mal erledigt und holen das Pillendöschen. Nee. Steht aber irgendwo dahinter, ne? Hier muss die Apotheke sein, wa?
If Velma's capable of running the warehouse, she can certainly pick up her own caffeinoid.
Don't be so hard on her. With Brax missing, she's working doubles and needs a little edge.
Very well, dearie. But you stop by anytime you like. Hmm?
Mhm.
Thanks, I'll keep that in mind.
Hello, dearie. Why, I don't believe I've seen you before. And with sweet cheeks like those, I'd remember.
Ich habe halt eine Maske auf, aber
What can
okay.
Auntie Abigail
Nee.
do for you? Yes, indeed. Someone's got to keep Stella Bay's people healthy and energized. Oh, but I am. I get to see plenty of my neighbors here, and I do dearly love a little gossip. Bless your little heart, you must mean caffeinoid. If it's pep you need, one pill does the deed. Now, dearie, who's this pickup for?
Ja, für mich natürlich. Ah, entweder lügen, aber ich finde diese
Aren't you a saucy thing? I may not be a fresh young thing anymore, but with age comes experience, dearie. Much as I'd love to, my rheumatism is especially fierce at the moment, and I'm all out of my medicine. But I'd hate to send you away empty-handed. You were here for Caffeinoid, weren't you? Who's it for?
Guck mal, dann lügen wir noch mal.
I'm so sorry, but with the iconoclasts and the marauder filth chasing away what little trade we get, I'm afraid I have to reserve my supply for Stellar Bay residents.
Scheiße.
Our reserves have gotten so low, I've even had to start locking the supply room upstairs. Isn't it a shame what some people will do to get a little extra? Isn't it just? I'd make an exception for you if I could, my little cherub. Is there anyone else needing a special pickup from Auntie Abigail?
Ich kann nur den Namen nicht sagen. Sie hat doch gerade gesagt, für die gibt es nix. Scheiß drauf, wir haben eh schon verkackt. Das ist vertraulich, da geht ihr nicht drauf ein.
Oh, her.
Scheiße.
It's none of my business, but I have told her Dr. Williams would bump up her monthly allotment if only she'd join MSI. Contribute like the rest of us. Now I've gone and said too much. And you know me, dearie. I don't like to pry. I'm afraid it'll be the better part of a month. Our dear Nyoka tends to exhaust her supply rather quickly. Believe me, there's nothing I'd love better
Ach
than
komm,
to
erzähl
help
doch keinen. Du
you.
musst einfach nach
But
hinten
there's
gehen
not
und mir die
much
Pillen
I can
bringen.
do. Dr. Williams managed the town's allotments from his terminal upstairs. Even I can't access them.
Okay, Alter. Das mache ich nicht. Ich bin alleine hier.
Oh, you flatter an old woman. Me, I'm just here to be a pretty face for the customers. And to keep an extra key to the supply room, for all the times Dr. Williams misplaced his. Careless experimentation with medicinal substances does take its toll, eventually.
Ach, ich will ihr
In
nicht
the town
drohen, das
graveyard,
mache ich
I'm
nicht.
afraid.
Nein.
Poor
Den finden wir einen
man was
anderen Weg.
always searching for the flower of enlightenment. On the way, he tried some rather daring substance combinations. The graveyard's near the southern ruins. You're certainly welcome to pay our respects, but the bodies tend to attract beasties. Do be careful. I'd hate for anything to happen to you, dearie.
Ich schüchter sie nicht ein. Das ist nicht meine Art, Leute.
Dearie.
Ihr kennt mich. Alles klar. Besorge Nahrungsmittel aus der MSI-Apotheke. Stockwerk verwalten. Laut Abigail. Das Dr. Williams ist tot. Okay, entweder können wir ihr drohen halt. Ich kann auch mal hochgehen, aber ich speichere mal kurz ab. Bevor wir jetzt uns auf den Weg machen. Hier ist die Toilette. Geh mal kurz aufs Klo, Oma Abigail, ne? Ah, dafür müssten wir wahrscheinlich knacken. Hier oben kämen wir rein und raus. Ach, ich habe nur Schlüssel knacken. Na, wahrscheinlich habe ich nur... wo ist es dein Charakter? Warum bin ich jetzt unterdurchschnittlich? Malus. Warum? Okay, verstehe ich nicht so ganz. Ach so, weil ich besoffen bin wahrscheinlich, ne? Ach so. Fähigkeiten hatte ich nicht, ne? Das hilft mir sowieso nicht weiter, glaube ich. Schloss knacken, 23. Ah. Dafür bräuchte ich Vorteilspunkte, habe ich nicht. Also bleibt mir nichts anderes übrig, als die alte einzuschüchtern oder halt das andere zu machen. Und darauf werde ich mich dann wahrscheinlich eher einlassen. Die blöde Leiche durchsuchen. Hilft ja alles nix. Aber vorher machen wir mal wieder, ach so. Warte mal. Sprich mit Selina Poster Bescheid. Dann machen wir erstmal die Geschichte hier. Sprechen wir nochmal mit Selina, die ist auch direkt hier.
It's like wrapped in here. Oh, it does work. I bought some musk from Sebastian to cover up the saltiness.
Ach, hier soll ich mich dann auch vorstellen bei
Can
dem...
I get another advance, Mr. Nandi?
Just make sure it's properly logged.
I'll note it next to the others, sir. Greetings, and welcome to Monarch Stellar Industries, producers and purveyors of the finest salt tuna in Halcyon. What can I do for you today? You know, sending you is the first bright idea I've seen from that man, because I told him to stop bothering me about it a week ago. I still don't know anything about it, but if you want to help him, Velma's the one to ask.
Alter.
She's in the warehouse.
Schick mich.
But I'll warn you, Grim wore her patience thin a long time ago. Not at all. Mr. Nandi treats us all right and pays us well. I just spent most of my paycheck on Raptidon acid. I didn't have any choice. That's all Sebastian had in stock the other day. Oh, I don't need any of it. It's also I can talk to Sebastian. He doesn't get going about much else.
Mhm.
Sort of the strong, silent type. Unfortunately, my apartment's kind of filling up with his stuff. And some of the neighbors are complaining about the smell. I couldn't. What if he says no? Hey, Maybe you could ask him for me. I mean, a no would still be bad, but it won't be quite as embarrassing if you ask. Oh, Mr. Nandi's doing that thing where he breathes through his nose real slowly. I'd better get back to work. He doesn't talk much, but he's got this quiet intensity, you know? Like there's stuff going on inside his head that you have no idea about. Plus, he's got great legs. It's hard to find a man who doesn't skimp on lower body exercises. Sorry, sometimes I get carried away.
Okay, meine Freunde, mit Ihnen sollte ich reden, oder?
Well, new business turns up at last. Celia, didn't I tell you our new statistics-based advertising model would be a hit?
That you did, sir.
How can yield improvements of 26.7% not quicken the pulse? How can 32% cost savings not moisten the loins?
You've often posed these very questions.
Clear my schedule. This newcomer has a meeting with me. Celia, will you make a note of that for my self-review? Very generous.
Noted.
But not so generous I can't drive a good bargain. Now, who sent you? Rizzo's, perhaps? Or Auntie Cleo herself? Hiram? Why, he's probably still out at Devil's Peak. Not that he's had the courtesy to notify me, at any rate. But if you're here for him, I suppose that means you aren't here for Saltuna. Now, there's no need to humor me. I'm used to this particular letdown. I had hoped that livening up our advertisements with enticing figures would draw the other corporations back to our bosom, but it seems we're back to the drawing board. Surviving alone isn't as easy as it looks. Thanks to the so-called hazard clause, Monarch has been cut off from the board's resources and protection for 10 years now. Now, we've kept ourselves in business by trading with individual corporations, but given the off-the-books nature of those transactions, such arrangements are precarious.
You talk like Graham.
Freedom always sounds nice, doesn't it? It makes a rather pretty slogan. But if you sit down and tally up the costs, how you provide for yourself in the absence of aid, how you protect yourself from a hostile galaxy, it starts to lose its shine.
Das habe ich auch schon gelernt.
Indeed. Mr. Nandi here has a rather ingenious plan to get MSI restored to the board.
On our terms, mind you.
And if our advertising scheme hasn't borne fruit, then perhaps it's time we took matters into our own hands.
It's true, our Celia is an alarmingly competent middle manager. At any other company, she'd be wasted in data entry. The plan she refers to is a two-pronged approach, and the first part involves seeing Stellar Bay properly defended. With a Bolt 52 cartridge, of course. If you can get us what we need to rejoin the board, starting the Bolt 52, we'll be able to become one of the most productive and
Jetzt
secure
sprechen wir über
cities in
Geld, mein
Halcyon.
Freund.
And you'll have a powerful ally on the board.
Why, one of the strongest defenses in Halcyon. An extremely powerful ordnance. I'll need to gather some supplemental materials, but I mustn't get ahead of myself.
You do tend to do that.
The Bolt 52 will be in the old arms building southwest of town, which used to be part of Stellar Bay before we had to move our walls in. And these days, it's overrun with marauders and raptidons. Do be careful. I've lost more than a few people to marauders and raptidons out there. Oh, and while you're at it, there should be a terminal in the arms building with some dangerous information. Perhaps you could delete it so it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. What can I do for you? I see. And was his delivery of the MSI authorized greeting up to snuff? Well, that's excellent. I'll see that your feedback makes it into his review. What else can I do for you? Then it's good that I keep such meticulous notes. I've asked myself the same thing many times, especially seeing as the legal mechanisms we employed were part of the board's own bylaws.
You see what I have to deal with?
For many years, this planet was home to as many corporations as Terra 2, but back then it was known as Terra 1. As you may have noticed, this planet has more than its share of hazards. And as the other corporations began to tally their losses, they decided to pull out. Our leadership at the time certainly wanted to, but there were others of us who saw an opportunity. The chance to improve working hours and conditions, to reform MSI from the ground up.
Was cooler Typ eigentlich.
It's humane, but it's also good business sense. Exhausted, sick, and malnourished workers are not productive workers. Even a cursory review of the data bears that out. Anyway, we learned of a loophole in the corporate bylaws that would allow MSI to claim ownership of the entire planet once the other corporations pulled out, creating the perfect environment for us to enact these new reforms. That's what I thought. But the senior executives laughed in our faces and insisted we'd be relocating to Terra 2 along with everyone else. In a manner of speaking, many of us stayed behind in an act of quiet but firm defiance. As the most senior executive remaining, I ended up in charge of what was left of MSI. I moved forward with our planned reforms as well as our strategy to assume ownership of the planet. Yet not long after I renamed it Monarch, the other corporations dislodged us from the board and began an official campaign to paint us as lawless savages. I don't think I realized how far they'd stoop. Everything we did was legal and above board. We followed their rules, and yet they still found reasons to declare us outlaws. I do think there's something useful in a governing body like the board. Something that keeps us from anarchy, but I dearly wish it functioned differently. Why wouldn't anyone? They own nearly all the resources and infrastructure in Halcyon. To be on the board is to be part of the colonial community, and being cut off means slow strangulation. Indeed, we've got to consider realities, not ideals. If membership on the board can ease our hardships and provide us with opportunities, then that's the path I mean to pursue. Besides, I'm hopeful that additional leverage on our part will allow us a more equitable relationship.
Don't get ahead of yourself, sir.
Yes, it'll be easier to explain once we have the Bolt 52. My hope is to maintain the reforms we've managed here, and who knows? Perhaps once we're restored, we could spread them to other corporations. It's a legal provision that gives the board the authority to cordon off any planet or location that it deems dangerous. For the greater good. Allegedly. Monarch may be dangerous, but it's hardly the wasteland the board describes it to be. Whatever the board's goals, the greater good has little part in them. He and his followers call themselves the Iconoclasts. Lawless anarchists, all of them. If anyone on Monarch deserves the reputation the board's pinned on us, it's them. A chance. They've been doing this for years. And well, let's just say I know enough about Graham to be confident that he won't change. It isn't just that they drain our people and resources. Every radical act they commit cements Halcyon's image of us all as destructive rebels and pushes us further from the rest of the colony. He's lucky the board doesn't take him seriously enough to keep more than a few UDL gunships patrolling Monarch.
An Earth Directorate assault cruiser would change his tune. It's almost a shame we haven't seen one around Monarch in a long while.
What can I do for you?
Der Typ war mir sogar sympathisch. Ich weiß gar nicht mehr, was ich zuletzt gesagt hatte über den Chef von diesem anderen Konzern auf dem ersten Planeten, auf dem wir waren. Und der Typ war mir tatsächlich sympathisch. Bin mal gespannt, ob es da eine Kehrseite der Medaille gibt, weil für das, was er mir gesagt hat, klang eigentlich alles ganz sinnig. Fand ich zumindest. Aber Step by Step, Bro, was ist los mit dir? Genau. Denn wir gehen jetzt erstmal auf J. Schieben das erstmal nach hinten. Besorge, so. Was hat man denn noch? Genau, die Ratte aus Edelstahl. Die war nämlich, glaube ich, hier um die Ecke. Ich gucke mal einmal, das werden wir im nächsten Part machen. Ich gucke mal einmal. Anscheinend müssen wir hier rein, nicht wahr? Alles klar, meine Freunde. Ich würde sagen, erstmal wollte ich noch kurz loswerden. Ich dachte erst, das hier wäre eine richtig unfreundliche Gegend, aber du hast ja hier mehr Gossip als auf jedem anderen Planeten. Das finde ich ganz witzig. Wenn es euch gefallen hat, lasst einen Daumen da, abonniert den Kanal, schaut auf meinen Kanal vorbei. Da gibt es jede Menge andere interessante Videos zum Thema Videospiele und andere Let's Plays. Kann man sich mal reinziehen. Ist ganz gut. Ansonsten teilt dieses Video, damit ich ein bisschen Reichweite generieren kann, wenn ihr Leute kennt, die auf diese Art Let's Plays abfahren. Ja, ansonsten bleibt mir nicht viel zu sagen, außer bis zum nächsten Mal. Ich hoffe, ihr seid wieder dabei, wenn es heißt Let's Play Outer Space. Bis dahin und Tschüssikowski.